Welcome back to Old Guy REI. It sounds like folks are enjoying these Meet the Investor videos that we've been doing. And today we're lucky enough to get Jason Calascibetta on with us and talk about his journey. So, Jason, thank you for taking the time to do this. And I'm sure people will find some value in your story. I know Cynthia and I have, so thank you.
Of course, you've helped me start my journey, so I feel I owe you quite a bit.
Thank you for saying that. That's really nice.
Very true.
But I've been impressed with, and I told you a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, how impressed I was with how how much you've progressed in, and we'll definitely get into it, but you picked up your first property, and I think we probably met through Dion's course, and so just let everybody know where you're at and what you're investing in, and maybe when you got started.
Sure. I'm in Chicago. I live in Chicago. I also invest in Chicago. I started probably 2 years ago. I got my first property last year on February 2nd. It's a fourplex that I've been thrilled with, very happy with. Thought it would be easy to buy more, and it has not been. I wish I
Yeah,
could buy more, but I can't.
yeah, that's something that we're looking forward to hearing about. And you started self-managing with your first property. How has that process been?
Actually going very well. I did basically started self-managing right off the bat. I did do a lot of homework before I bought this property, like saying I started 2 years ago, was all research for like a year and then got this. And self-managing's been honestly not bad. I feel I do have pretty good tenants, so that helps. They don't call me for every little thing. But I find all my people to do stuff on Thumbtack, which I got that advice from DN, and it's worked out well.
Yeah, I know we get a lot of great advice from Dion and being in his course and things. Um, were you have you taken any other mentorships or just Dion so far?
Um, I just finished not too long ago Matt's boot camp, and I did do his course as well. But I just recently did that. I did Dion's, I think right before or right after I bought the property. I forget when I actually did the course. I think it was before. But
Okay, yeah, I think that's right. And you mentioned your first deal, and it made me think about some of the other folks that I've spoken to during these interviews, and a few of them have had super experiences on their first property, and sometimes that could be a bad thing, right? Because then they're all gung ho and they want to just get the next one and think it's going to be as perfect as the first one. Sometimes I think, well, I know for me it probably worked better having challenges right away because I think we learned a lot more that way. I think if we had had a perfect deal the first time, we might have gone crazy just buying, and that probably wouldn't have come out. Ended up being very a good way to start. But you also recently started working, or you purchased a subscription to the Bright Investor software and community. Why did you end up doing that?
I think it might have been on one of the Wednesdays he came on, right? One
You're
of the,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he introduced all that, and I started looking into it, and he had a good discount that day. So I'm like, yeah, it looks really good. Let me try it. And to be honest, when I first did it, I didn't use it for like the first month and a half because it seemed overwhelming to me how to figure it out. But then once he does Wednesdays and Saturdays meetings, and he starts to show you how to use it, and now it's very easy to use, and it's super helpful.
Yeah, I think one of the attractive parts about that program was for someone who maybe a new investor who's looking for a market to invest in, or like in your case, you've been looking for deals in your market and haven't been finding anything. So if you're considering transitioning to a different market, they put a lot of information. Like you said, it was probably overwhelming in the beginning, there's a lot of good information, and once you learn how to use it, I think it could be really valuable. He was on with us a few months ago, and that was nice that he offered a discount for anybody that was in the meeting that night. A couple of you guys, I know Chester is in there with you too, and they sound like they really have everything together. I know recently we've heard about coffee closers that they're closing up shop, I think, and that was a similar um, format. I don't know what the difference was and why they're closing up shop, but
I never used coffee closers, but this is very impressive to me. I know Chester loves it as too. He's very in all the analytics and stuff. One of the big things I have to say is if you tell him, and he'll always ask, does anybody need anything else? And you ask him to add anything to it, he will have it added within a week, at least a week, if not sooner.
mhm. Yeah, I heard a couple of you talking about that. So let's go back to I mentioned that you're considering a different market. Have you zeroed in on anything yet?
Not zeroed in. I've been looking a little bit in Indiana. I don't want to be super far away because I'm not ready for that. I don't know how you do that without looking at your properties. So my I don't think I said it. My current property is like 15, 20 minutes away. So I'm there and back super fast.
Mhm.
So I've been looking in Indiana and also Wisconsin. I actually just happened to fall into it where Cody lives and where he invests is where I found like, hey, this looks pretty good.
Okay.
And it's also not that far away from me. I mean, it's like 2.5, 3 hours, but that's still, I can go there on a weekend or
Yeah,
back and forth. I'm nuts.
right. That's great. And I think, people always talk about having boots on the ground. I think Cody is one of the best resources for that market that you can find. Um, he's really knowledgeable, and I think he's up to 18 units there, and he's been doing it for 5 years, I think he said. So I'm sure, like everybody else in the community, if you ever needed any help from him, anything he could do for you, just like everybody else, they're so willing to do it, and that's pretty rare out in the real world.
Yeah, I talked to him a lot about it and because I found it like right before we went to Vegas. So I was
Mm.
talking to him about a lot about it there.
Yeah, great. Remind me again, what do you do for your W-2?
I'm partners in a union electrical company, low voltage electrical company. So I work a lot.
Yeah,
It's almost all day and all night. Not constantly, but I have people in the field day and night, so I get phone calls a lot, basically.
yeah. Well, that's great. And I know you've mentioned before that your goal to be able to retire is like within 7 years, and you think that with a couple of fourplexes, like we just spoke about, that you might be able to do that. And I think people might think, well, two fourplexes, it doesn't sound like enough to retire on, but you have other um, retirement accounts or things like that that will be
Yes,
combined to help you do that.
correct. Yeah, and well, I give you my whole little life story. In 2020, I lost my fiance that I was with my entire life, like for 25 years. And then I just kind of got lost, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I never thought about retiring early or anything like that then. But about 2 years after she passed, after I was kind of a little out of fog, I said I don't want to work anymore, is what I
Mm.
want to do. So I went into all the fire, financial, what is it? The fire groups, financial independence, retire early,
Uh-huh.
and I started putting money in stocks, like all my money just in stocks because I want to quit working. And then I happened to run into Dion in a fire group on Facebook. And he's talking about, well, this isn't the best thing, looking at real estate. Then I ended up following him and started researching that and then went into real estate. And so, yes, I have stocks. Plus, through my job, I have a retirement thing that I can't touch until I'm 59. Like at all. I can't take anything out. I can't take loans against it. It's just there. So that I'll have that as well. Plus the stocks I've been putting in that I'm not planning on taking out. My other like the deals that I'm doing now, I'm just going to fund with my own cash.
Mhm.
So I have all that, and I think if I have these couple or quads, I could retire very comfortably. by the time I'm 55, which is 7 years.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
I'm quitting
So
when I'm 55, whether I have enough or not. My job's going to kill me because it's extremely stressful.
yeah, that can be a challenge. And uh, it sounds great that you have a shorter um, forecast, I guess, for most of us, because like Dion says, you need at least 10 years in the game for things to start working out. And a lot of people don't want to wait.
I have almost 10. I mean, I started a couple years ago in my head. Dean always says when you start saving is when you start. So I kind of say I started like 9 years ago.
Okay.
That's my little cheat. I don't know if it's true or not, but
Yeah. Well, no, whatever helps get you through it, I'm sure. Um, so you have your W-2. Has it been hard to like look for deals and stuff while you're working so many hours? How do you find the
no,
time?
I've been able to find, not find, but look for deals pretty easily. I could easily free up, 20 minutes or more a day to look online. And then I do go look at, I've actually looked at a lot of deals and started to really get into them. I've put offers on quite a few, but just they fell through or somebody beat me out. A lot of places I thought I was going to get, and then someone came in with a cash offer, and that was the end of that. So it's been hard finding something. I'm under contract right now, but that ended up being there's a lot more work on this building than I thought, so I'm still negotiating that.
Hmm. That's a great point because we've run across, you were just telling me about your deal and you got your inspection. It is another fourplex, right?
Yes.
And you knew about some of the big ticket items that would need to be handled if you took over the property. But after your inspection, quite a bit more came up. And do you, I've heard some people say, like, they're working with an agent and the agent's been sending them properties. And after some time, whoever the investor is might feel guilty. Say the agent brings them a deal and it's not a perfect deal in the investor's eyes, but they don't want to hurt the agent's feelings by turning it down. It sounds like you're just the opposite and you can separate the emotional part,
I'm
right?
very honest with her.
Mhm.
And she gets it. Like I said, it doesn't cash flow. It doesn't cash flow. That's all I'm looking for.
Mhm.
So she understands that, and she's taken me to a lot of places. I do feel bad. I should have bought her a Christmas gift. I'm probably going to buy her something else because
Yeah.
she does do a lot for me, and I do feel bad that nothing's worked out so far. But she understands why. I'm very upfront. Like it just it's not going to work. And she brings me a lot of them. I've brought stuff to her as well that I've just found on Zillow or whatever. Like, hey, let's go look at this. I don't have to. I'm going to use her if I buy it. I don't have to. So I feel that kind of evens things out, I guess.
Yeah, I think that that's a great way to be to have that relationship. And I've always told people that, if you're feeling that way, when you analyze the deal and whatever makes the deal not satisfactory for you, if you can relay that to the agent, I think they'll gain a little bit of more respect for you and say, oh, okay, Frank or Jason can't do this deal because they're going to have to put $30,000 in after the fact or something like that. Or we show them how we run our numbers, and maybe they say, okay, this is all great, but you're missing something here, or I didn't understand that part of your analysis. So I think that ends up showing them that you know what you're talking about, basically, and you're not
Oh,
just turning away deals just because.
I've educated her quite a bit on stuff that she's very open to, because she does own one property herself. So she somewhat knows investing, but she doesn't know a lot about it. But I'm
Oh,
very upfront and honest with her about it. Like I was with her this morning doing a electrical inspection because and we both learned a lot there about that stuff.
oh yeah.
But I told her, this he gave us a ballpark, like this is roughly what it's going to cost. I'm like, yeah, that's this stuff's adding up a lot. I hope this is still going to work.
Hmm.
I'm not going to ask for every cent of it, for them to come off the price, but it's going to be a big chunk. So hopefully, it works. And she's like, no, I understand.
Yeah, and I think you probably have a decent shot of negotiating better with the seller now because like one of the other people in our group has mentioned he was under contract for a property and had asked for a slight discount. I forget the reason, but the seller didn't want to do it at the time. So he asked for a few more inspections. And his thinking was that once those inspections were done, everything or a lot of the issues with the property would be documented. So anybody else looking at the property would have that information too. So it makes more sense to sell to him because he's willing to take on all the issues, right? But somebody else seeing all this information might get scared away. So I think it it could work in favor for you guys who are like the first ones seeing all this stuff and willing to deal with it for the right price.
He was under contract once and it fell through, and I think that's why the guy wanted so much money off, but he wouldn't release any of that information to me
Mm.
about what they found in their inspection or anything like that. So I am going to tell my realtor, like, make sure he knows about, like, this is public knowledge now because
Yeah,
it's a lot of work.
yeah, that's a great point.
And I figured all this stuff out from Matt, just to throw that out there through his boot camp that
Mhm.
I'm paying for a lot of these inspections for I did the plumber. I didn't have to pay for the tuck pointer. I had to pay for the roofer, just to get really good estimates and have the pros really look at it. As much as the inspector I had told me, like, this is going to be, these are the issues, he couldn't really tell me exactly what they're going to cost to repair and the exact way to do it. So that's why I had other actual, like I said, a plumber, an electrician, a roofer, a tuck pointer, and so some of which I had to pay. So I do have a good, not a good chunk, but a lot of money in this deal.
Yeah,
So
no,
I don't want to lose it.
it's not free. Yeah, for sure. And were you the one also who mentioned that you extended your contingency period so that you could have time to get other estimates?
I did not originally. Once after the original inspection, I told him right after that, I'm like, we're gonna have to extend. There's no way. Because part of my deal was to make it work well, is telling him like I can close super fast. And I could have, but I didn't know all this other stuff was wrong.
Yeah. And I just had a thought. It's listening to you talk right now, being a newer investor, sometimes we think, what do we have that can benefit anybody else that's trying to get into investing? But this stuff that you're talking about, and you've only been in it for a couple of years, is a lot of great knowledge, a lot of stuff that even I don't know. I don't really talk about. You've shared your inspection reports with me, and a few other people have as well. So I can contribute there sometimes, which I really enjoy doing. But we have to think that even though we've only been in it a couple of years, or for us now it's about 4 years, but we've gone through a lot of things that could help a lot of people, and that's one of the reasons we started this channel was to share honestly what we're going through. And you mentioned um, us before, but and we're sharing some challenges we're going through right now in St. Louis, right? So I think, and we're documenting it all because one thing I think about is people see us say going to St. Louis and maybe it seems like everything's going good and they might want to follow, but I don't want to recommend any place that we've invested in until I can actually have solid numbers to share. So these 3 units that we're going to put up in St. Louis, I think the rent softened a little bit. So when we did our analysis, the numbers look much better. But we're going to share all that. Once everything's full, we'll share the real numbers. And that way, if anybody still wants to go to St. Louis, then they have the honest truth. So um, I appreciate you sharing everything that you're going through too.
Oh, of course. I haven't had to lease anything yet. I've been extremely lucky. I
Oh,
bought 4 tenants in it. One tenant moved out, and then a month later, she said, "I'd like to move back in." I said, "You were a good tenant. You're more than welcome." So she came back in and was able to raise the rent. So I was lucky with that, but I'm sure that's going to be a struggle once I actually have to try and lease something.
yeah, I think. one lesson that we've been learning too is we have met a few other people that invest in St. Louis over the last couple of weeks. And when we share the areas that we've already invested in, some of them are like, I wouldn't really invest in that, say, neighborhood or zip code or things like that. So we're learning a lot there. But in the beginning, we did rely heavily on our agent and our property manager. And the property manager was, yeah, we manage there. We don't have any issues there. But we were having work done on one of our units, getting estimates, and one of the companies that they asked for an estimate wouldn't go to the house, wouldn't go to that neighborhood, but everybody else, had no issue. So it's been a mixed bag, and sometimes you question yourself, did we buy in the right place or buy a bad deal? But we're working through it, and that's more stuff that we're going to share. Um, so looking forward, you have a couple of areas on your radar. Does any do either of them seem more promising, one that over the other?
Not really. I'd say they're pretty equal right now. In Las Vegas, I met some people investing in Indy. Dylan, I'm sure, I don't know if you know him or not, but
Mhm.
he's more in commercial stuff. But just I looked in that area through Bright Investor and right around Indy, not in Indy, it looks pretty promising. So, like I said, there and then by Appleton, I look over there in Wisconsin because
Okay.
I'd love to get something else here in Chicago, but it's been a struggle trying to find something. Which I did go to an investor in a local investor group Wednesday and found out that I'm not the only one. Nobody can find anything. We are
Mhm.
not a seller's market here. I know a lot of people say they are. We are not.
Yeah, that's what I
A
was going to
buyer's
say.
market. I'm sorry.
Right. That's what a lot of people are saying too. It, they're all expecting all these deals just to pop out of thin air, but wherever people are investing in the groups that we belong to, they're seeing stuff still fly off the shelves. So,
I get market reports from the people that I have bought for and my realtor and stuff, and they all say the same thing. It is it is a seller's market right now.
yeah, we so for us this year, we're going to be basically stabilizing, trying to get everything full and stabilizing. But you mentioned your tenants, your place came fully occupied, but all your tenants are Section 8, is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that because a lot of people seem to shy away from Section 8 for one reason or another, but we haven't. We've had two Section 8 tenants, and the nice thing is we get paid, regularly and on time. The I think you've heard me tell the story about the lady with the gun. She's a Section 8 tenant, and she's basically on her way out. But the other tenant that we had uh, was a good one, and they were paying uh, fair market rents. So I think we would be. I was talking to our property manager the other day, and she said the same thing that actually in her area, Section 8 tenants were treating properties better than regular tenants in her experience. So that was a surprise to hear, but good news, I think.
I'm very happy with them. I see them every couple of months, all four of them, except the one because she's never there. She's my best tenant. Um, they're great. They keep everything super clean. They call me with any problems, which I appreciate because if something's wrong, I'd rather know than not. I'm very happy with them. One of my friends buys stuff in my neighborhood, which is insane because everything's so expensive. But he buys just with the idea of holding for appreciation.
Mhm.
And he's had nightmare tenants, and they pay a lot of money to rent those places. They've destroyed two of his places, and they're regular tenants. So stuff happens either way, in my opinion. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen either way.
Yeah, and having enough reserves to weather those kinds of storms is definitely important. Luckily, we had some decent reserves before we started having to put money out. But I was telling Dion, our first year was decent. It was our third year that really hit us hard. So, you know, it just depends. They always talk about the first 5 years sucking, but um, and that hard year could come at any time. I think our friend Cody also mentioned that his third year was the hardest year. He had more vacancies kind of all clumped up together and things like that. Um, but you haven't had to go through any evictions yet. We've done a couple actually in Milwaukee in one of our properties, but that one, you know, again, meeting people through this group. And the first year we went to the ORAD event, we met Justin Cambra there, and he was a big investor in Milwaukee, and he referred us to a new property management company that we've been with for about 6 months now, and things are looking a lot better. Um, the old company was charging a lot for maintenance calls and things like that. They charged a lot more for evictions. Not that, you know, evictions are an everyday event, but it was like 5 times what the new company charges. And the new company got the people out right away and got them turned right away. So we were thankful for that.
I did find out at that meeting I went to Wednesday that I didn't know this. If you are evicting someone from Section 8, at least here in Chicago, you still get paid the entire time you're evicting them from Section 8. You won't get the tenants portion most likely,
Mhm.
but Section 8 will keep paying you until they're gone, which is nice, which I didn't know about.
Yeah, that is good. Good news. I think in our case, the one she's in Illinois, and we haven't gotten Section 8, the rent from Section 8, but in her case, Section 8 was paying the whole rent. So I know that varies um, from place to place.
Have you
So
talked to Section 8 and let them know that you're evicting her?
yeah, the property manager let them know, and there's an attorney involved right now trying to figure out a way to help the tenant stay in the unit. But you know, after the gun issue, I don't think that's a good decision. So I let the property manager know if it's up to us, we just would like her out. You know, we don't, because she always avoided the PM whenever they came to do anything. It was tough to get any maintenance done on the place because of her. And so I think even though it would be an eviction, one of the positives would be that, again, you clean up the place and can charge more for rent. So it might work out for the best. Hopefully it will. The and you know, Dion messes with me sometimes about being in different markets. We're in 4 different markets, right? But that's kind of what we know. It's kind of weird to say, but that's how we started out. We started buying turnkeys, and they were in different markets, and we felt like we did have boots on the ground because we worked with Allie. You know, she was on with us a couple of months ago, and we've had a relationship with her for quite some time. We trust her, and she's always been supportive and has our back. I think Chester would say the same, but um, because he got his place in Detroit, and that was one of the markets that Allie worked in with the turnkey providers. So we didn't just, you know, just jump around willy nilly finding properties to throw our money at. Um, but what I was getting to is that there's differences in each market. You know, like in St. Louis, we have occupancy inspections, and that's that's a whole nother issue. You know, the city has to approve your unit. They'll usually come in and find a few small things wrong, so it's more money to spend before you get the money, before you get the unit rented. We've also talked about the difference in property managers. Some of them, to place a tenant, they'll charge half a month's rent. Some charge a full month's rent. You know, you haven't really had to take on new tenants. Do you know what well, you manage yourself. That's probably why. But in your area, have you checked into property management?
If I was going to get one, I can get one for 8. They charge 8% monthly. Um, I'm not sure how much anything else. I haven't looked into it that much.
Okay. Yeah. In what areas, I was going to mention too that the Wisconsin market seems like, at least for Cody, it's been a good appreciation market as well as a cash flowing market. What areas in Indiana were you looking at?
It's something with a G. I honestly don't remember, like Greensburg or something like that. It's right. It's a suburb of Indianapolis.
Okay.
But Dylan's starting a property management company out there, so I guess I might have one already if I get something out there
Okay.
and talk to him.
Yeah, no, that's great. I know I met somebody too for the St. Louis market that he has about 30, 35 units himself. He's been there for 10 or 11 years, and he's actually going to start a property management company as well. So even if, because I really like our property manager, he's been doing great for us so far, but it's not ever a bad thing to have a backup.
I think if I end up doing, eventually I'll have a property manager for the one I have and hopefully this other one. But I'll probably do it through Hemline, which I have already, but I don't really use it much. I don't know why I feel comfortable having it. But I'll probably try and do it that way. Pretty much like Dion does, but also with the help of Hemline.
Yeah, well, I think the way you went about it is probably a really good way because you know what it takes to manage your place and you'll know, if the property manager is doing things that differently than you want them done and you can correct them.
That was part of my researching before I bought something was that was the plan. And lucky I found something that was close to me was the other benefit.
Right. Yeah. And you haven't reached out that far as the Wisconsin market. I know Cody has had a few PM challenges and it's kind of a toss up. He had a couple of property management companies he was considering um, because there were a few things he wasn't happy with his current property manager. But, it's almost like they were little things. So he wasn't sure if he switched, would the problems be bigger or more with the new property management company. So I think what he did was he split his properties between two companies to see which one was working better for him. And that's a nice option to have.
If I go out of state, I'll probably try and or I'll get a PM at first and then probably try and take it over and self-manage it, at least for a while till I'm 55. And then I'll probably get property managers for everything.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that the that market in Indianapolis wasn't too far from you either. Was it a couple hours, did you say?
Yeah, it's about 2.5 hours, which I'm comfortable with because like I said, I can go there on the weekends and if something comes up where I wanted to go there, it's not too far away to go. I don't have to get on a plane.
Hmm. Yeah, that sounds like a nice option. Um, so what do you think the next year looks like for you? I know we've talked about the challenges you're having finding another property in your market, the couple markets that you're in, at least researching. Do you think you'll end up picking one of those? If this deal that you're under contract for right now falls through,
I'm gonna split between both. I'm gonna keep looking where I currently look, or where my other one is, so it's kind of close by, and then I'm gonna put more effort into looking in Wisconsin and Indiana at the same time. And then wherever I find the next deal that's what I'll go with. Otherwise, if this does go through, I'm gonna be managing this for a while because it
yeah,
needs a lot of work. Which the tenants are gonna stay there though, which is also good.
yeah. Did I don't think we mentioned the tenants that are in there. Are they at market rents? Or are they below market rents?
No, they're below market rents. They're not Section 8. They're market rate tenants. They're all at $1,000 each. Um, they they have agreed to each go up to 1,400, which I think was amazing. They
Yeah,
want to stay there, and then eventually I'll keep raising that because as of right now, the actual what I can get for that is like 1,800.
mm,
But if the 1,400, even with all the work that needs to be done, if they don't even come down at all in price, it still cash flows pretty well. So I'm probably going to go through with this most likely.
yeah,
I'd still like to get a little bit off because it's a lot of work, but we'll see.
yeah. I wonder how it will work out because it sounds like the work that needs to be done, you know, I would assume that they could be without utilities for a couple of days at least. It seems like a lot of the electrical work that you described, a lot of that work could be done before disconnecting,
For
the
sure.
power to the place.
They should only be without a day, one day, and they're back up.
Mhm. Oh, that's good. And if you don't mind, I know there were some. Did you get a sewer scope? I know the first inspector couldn't do it yet.
Nobody can do it.
Oh,
I did have a plumber look. He looked in the back and seen all the water flowing, and I forgot what it's called. Like behind the house, there was another where the water comes in, and
uh-huh.
it's flowing great because it was raining out when we happened to be there. He's like, so I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Mhm.
If it is, it's definitely nothing major because they have check valves on all the sides of the one where they went to go do it, so they
Mhm.
could scope anything. And even this plumber said it's not a good idea to even do it. You're going to cause more problems.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of where I'm at with that one, which I'm not comfortable with, but I guess I have no choice.
Hmm. Yeah, that's always been a big one for us, at least knowing that line is clear. But on single families, it's quite a bit different than multifamily buildings, I'm sure.
That's the other thing is these people have lived there a long time and they've not had any problems. I actually asked the tenants.
Oh, that's great to know.
And I this is news to me. The plumber that I had look at it was like 110's been doing it forever. He's like, if you do have any problems, like anything starts to back up or you think there's roots or anything, put rock salt down there. It'll kill all the roots. I've never heard that before. I don't know if it works. I'm just throwing that out there.
Wow.
Like I'm like rock salt. He's like, yeah, like the stuff you put out on the street to get rid of the snow. So you put that down there and it'll kill all the tree roots. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's great. Great information from an old timer.
Yes.
Um, and I think, what you were talking about earlier with the your tenants being good for you so far, I think it helps for them to see that you're wanting to take care of the building too. And, I'm sure they appreciate it.
They all said that right off the bat because I changed the locks. I put Dion's locks on there and stuff, and they were thrilled. And I told them anything you need done, let me know, and I'll try to do it. They do want laundry, which I don't blame them. And I told them I'm going to try to do that. I'll see what I can do. And then my last Section 8 inspection, I had they did ding me for paint chips missing in the one, so I got that painted. That's done. And then I just brought her downstairs. I'm like, I'm thinking about putting laundry down here. What do I have to do so they can come down here? Because it used to be two apartments down there, but they like ripped everything out. It's a wreck in the basement. They don't go in the basement. So I do have to. There's more chips painting and stuff like that. I'd need to put probably like $5,000 into redoing one of the rooms.
Mhm.
And then that includes like the plumbing and stuff for the washer and dryer. So I'm probably gonna end up doing that as well. But I didn't expect this, but have to spend that much money to do it. I thought I should put a washer and dryer in there, be done with it.
Mhm.
But I can't because they do inspect the basement only because the water heater's down there.
Oh, okay.
And that could be, she said, that's fine. It doesn't matter what it is because the tenant doesn't need to go down there for that. But for the laundry, it has to be up to Section 8 par.
Okay. Yeah, great to know. Um, I'm sure the tenants would definitely appreciate that versus having to go to a laundromat,
Yeah.
especially during winter time. Um, so I think my last question for you would be, once you do get to retire, what will you do with your time?
I like to fish. I like Florida because I vacation there every July. It's a very expensive area, and I thought about every time I get aggravated. There was a real nice condo that was just I still get listings for out there that I was very close to like I'm just gonna buy this condo because you could rent those out also, and they usually cash flow pretty well because the rents out there are insane because it's on the ocean. So I debate that all the time, and then I say no because I'm gonna get bored of it. I think Dion brought it up. He's like instead of buying something like that, rent it. So, take your cash flow from the properties you own and rent it for when you want to go there. And I have that stuck in my head because I'm sure I will get bored of it after a while and then I'll own it and be stuck there. So that's all I really got is I like to fish a lot. I don't know, honestly. I know I
It's
don't want to keep doing my job that I do now.
Yeah, it's fun to fantasize about what it will be like once we get there. Um, and again, we find a lot of value in what Dion does. And just his suggestions, right? I know I've followed his advice quite a bit, just after meeting him and following him.
I like
Uh,
to scuba dive. That's another thing, but I haven't been in 20 years because I haven't had time. And my dive buddy was my dad, and he screwed up his back. So that's something I'd like to start doing again and just haven't.
and I know you've kind of been challenged to get back in hockey shape by one of our other friends. She's
That's
looking forward to playing hockey with you.
That's on in the works. That's another thing that's hard to time out because it's in the men's leagues and stuff like that. The games are super late or super early in the morning, and it's rough. But I quit smoking. That was a big step in the right direction because that's why I stopped. Couldn't breathe. When it hurts to breathe every time you're on the ice, it's not that much fun.
Oh, that's great. But again, I appreciate you being on with me. I'm glad that, and I was going to say earlier, we haven't had the chance to meet in person, but we've got a great group of friends, and you know, it's just been really special. And just with things the way they are today, with Zoom and all this stuff, it's kind of weird to say, but we've found some really great friends on
Yeah.
here, and you're one of them. So thank you so much.
Like I said, I owe you a lot, and I truly mean that. I mean, you showed me how to run my first numbers. I had no clue what the hell I was doing. Between you and Dion, I definitely would not have bought my first property. Not a chance.
Yeah, well, thank you. And you've mentioned before what helped you a lot with what Dion said was, about moving your money instead of losing your money. You're just moving into a property, it's still there, unless of course real estate tanks, but then you just don't sell, right? You hang on until it
No,
comes
you
back.
still have a lot of the money. It's not all gone, but a chunk of it. Yeah, I'm a very paranoid person, so I do a lot of research before I do stuff. So yeah, that was definitely a big thing.
Yeah.
And the
Well,
reserve, if anyone's listening, make sure you have your reserves.
yeah,
So
exactly.
I had to do a new hot water tank and some other things. And I really didn't care because I
Mhm.
had money set aside for that. And they paid for it. Didn't come out of my profits. It came out of the money I set aside for that reason. So
Mhm.
that's the biggest thing I tell anyone if they're going to do it. Make sure you have your reserves.
Yeah, I think that's the best advice. All right. Well, thank you. And we'll see you somewhere out there this week.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed Dion has his there's I think the members at like 5 o'clock today, but I
Today.
have at 7 o'clock at my time. I have a birthday dinner to go to, so unfortunately I won't be there. But
Okay.
I'll see you on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. One of the other days we're always together.
All right. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.